The film starts with an intense scene where Heinrich, a Nazi soldier, is being pursued by his fellow soldiers. Heinrich is considered a dangerous traitor and his capture is led by Colonel Rog, a ruthless leader who stops at nothing to catch him. In the end, Heinrich is outnumbered and captured. He is then put on trial in front of his comrades. Rog accuses Heinrich of deserting the war, despite Germany facing overwhelming odds. However, Heinrich ran away because he refused to kill innocent people and saw Germany as a nation of killers. Refusing to admit guilt, Heinrich is ultimately hanged by Rog's assistant, Dorfler. In his final moments, Heinrich glimpses the shadows of his wife and daughter before his life slips away, his breath growing labored and heartbeat slowing. Unexpectedly, he is rescued by a compassionate woman named Elsa, while Rog's troops enter German territory. After hours of unconsciousness, Heinrich wakes up to find himself in Elsa's care. Elsa and her mentally ill sister, Paul, use their healing skills to massage Heinrich and offer him herbal remedies. As they spend time together, they get to know each other better. Meanwhile, Rog visits the mayor, Robert, in search of the Lowenstein family's house. However, Robert is confused because he had expelled all the Jews from his city, leaving only ruins behind. Rog inquires about the belongings in the house, but the villagers had looted them years ago. Nevertheless, Rog insists on excavating the destroyed building in search of valuable items. Meanwhile, Robert's actions raise suspicion. He and his mistress, Sonia, seem to possess knowledge about the destroyed house. At another moment, while sharing a meal with Elsa and Paul, Heinrich couldn't help but ask why Elsa was helping him. Without hesitation, Elsa revealed her deep hatred for the Nazi troops who had killed her father. Later that evening, Rog and Heinrich visited the tavern and inn owned by Robert, where they enjoyed food and wine to warm themselves. From their interactions, it was clear that Rog held a higher rank than Robert, granting him the freedom to act as he pleased. He even restricted civilians from entering the inn, turning it into his temporary headquarters. The next morning, Rog ordered the local residents to demolish the Lowenstein house, searching for a piece of gold. However, Dorfler informed him that French and American troops would soon arrive in Germany, and their own soldiers were exhausted. Searching for gold would only overwhelm them against the enemy. Despite this information, Rog paid no heed and insisted on continuing his search for the gold. He commanded Dorfler to gather supplies and provisions. Meanwhile, Heinrich woke up from his sleep and bid farewell to Elsa, expressing his gratitude for her kindness. However, before leaving, Elsa sought his help. Regrettably, Heinrich explained that he had to find his daughter and couldn't assist Elsa. His wife and daughter had fallen victim to a bombing, but his daughter had miraculously survived. Upon hearing his explanation, Elsa reluctantly released him. However, their encounter was cut short when Nazi soldiers, led by Dorfler and his comrades, approached them. It appeared that they were scouring the area in search of livestock, and Dorfler immediately ordered his men to capture Elsa's chickens. Refusing to back down, Elsa confronted the soldiers with a weapon, warning them not to take away all her animals since she needed to eat too. Dorfler, impressed by Elsa's bravery, decided to enter her house. Suspicious, he suspected Elsa lived with someone else. Thankfully, Heinrich was already hiding in the attic. Elsa emphasized that she only lived with Paul while her fiancé was away at war. In a sudden move, Dorfler snatched Elsa's locket, provoking her anger. She fought back to retrieve it. From above, Heinrich witnessed Elsa's distress and couldn't bear it any longer. He swiftly attacked Dorfler and his men, sparking a fierce battle. Unfortunately, Dorfler managed to escape in a car. Nevertheless, Heinrich managed to defeat the army's counterattack within minutes. Realizing the danger, Heinrich had to take Elsa and Paul away from that place, as Dorfler would surely report them to Rog. Before leaving, they gathered weapons and supplies. While journeying through the forest, Paul suddenly insisted on returning home to tend to her beloved cow. Elsa explained that it would mean certain death if they went back. Meanwhile, Dorfler received treatment at Robert's inn, where he reported everything that had transpired at Elsa's house. Filled with vengeance, Dorfler became determined to finish them off, including Heinrich. As evening fell, Elsa, Paul, and Heinrich gathered around a bonfire to warm themselves. They decided to spend the night under a cliff. Before sleeping, Heinrich shared his fear of his daughter not recognizing him, having only seen her once when she was born. Elsa reassured him, promising that everything would be fine. The next day, Paul suddenly disappeared in the forest, causing Elsa to panic and search for him. As expected, Paul had returned to her house to care for the cows, and Dorfler and his troops captured him. In addition to the torture, Paul was pressured to reveal the whereabouts of Elsa and Heinrich. Dorfler went so far as to shoot Paul's beloved cow and set his house ablaze, along with the bodies of the Nazi troops killed by Heinrich. From a distance, Elsa witnessed her sister being kidnapped by Dorfler, and she screamed hysterically in anguish. Meanwhile, Rog was still unable to locate the gold belonging to the Lowenstein family. He summoned Robert and demanded to know its location. Robert pretended to be unaware, feigning ignorance. Rog felt that the people in the city were not submissive enough to him. To instill fear, he decided to publicly hang Paul, making an example of him. On the other hand, Heinrich and Elsa arrived in the city and encountered a gathering crowd. Soon after, a priest intervened, forbidding Rog from killing Paul. In response, Rog ordered Dorfler to assault the priest. Witnessing this, Elsa felt an overwhelming urge to join the crowd. However, Heinrich stopped her, forbidding her from doing so. The two sought help from a resident named Irmgard. Meanwhile, Paul was taken to the upper floor of the church, where his execution was imminent. But before that, one of the soldiers mocked Paul, calling him the hunchback. Enraged, Paul pushed the soldier, causing him to plummet from the top of the tower. Amidst the chaos, Heinrich and Elsa stealthily entered the church. Meanwhile, Paul spiraled out of control, shooting at Rogge's troops. However, tragically, Paul met his demise when Rogge delivered a fatal headshot. Witnessing her sister covered in blood, Elsa couldn't contain her tears. Yet, she had no time to mourn, as Rogge would soon discover her outside the church. Rogge threatened Robert and the residents, willing to shoot them one by one if no one revealed the location of the Lowenstein family's gold. In a surprising turn of events, Elsa attacks Rogge with several shots, though none of them hit their mark. Rather than retaliating, Rogge becomes smitten with Elsa at first sight. While Rogge is captivated, Dorfler and his men decide to pursue Heinrich. Luckily, Heinrich has grenades in his bag, leading to a shootout on the church roof. Running out of ammunition, Heinrich must think quickly to outsmart Dorfler and his men. He manages to corner them in a room and throws the remaining grenades. With a surge of adrenaline, he leaps from the roof, but is intercepted by soldiers on the ground below. Determined, he swiftly eliminates them. However, Dorfler proves to be formidable. Heinrich must exert all his abilities to defeat him. But just as he is about to deliver the finishing blow, the city is suddenly attacked by American planes passing overhead. Heinrich takes advantage of the chaos and seeks refuge at Irmgard's house due to his severe injuries. It is impossible for him to confront the armed forces in his current condition. Witnessing Heinrich's injuries, Irmgard promptly tends to him and allows him to stay for a while. Seeing Heinrich, she is reminded of her son who was killed in the war in Italy. Shortly after, the priest arrives, having just buried Paul's body. Heinrich inquires about Elsa's whereabouts and the reason for Rogge's troops being in the city. The priest reveals that Elsa has been captured, and Rogge's main objective in the city is to find the Lowenstein family's gold. Meanwhile, Robert sneaks down to the basement to meet his two friends, Hebler and Wilhelm. It is revealed that the three of them know the location of the gold, but Robert decides not to disclose it to Rogge, fearing for his son's life. However, as he prepares to leave, Sonja strikes him. She instructs Wilhelm to finish off Robert with a shovel. Simultaneously, Elsa is in Rogge's room, invited to a romantic dinner by him. Rogge mentions that Elsa bears a striking resemblance to his former girlfriend, whom he couldn't marry because she was Jewish. As a result, Rogge shoots her lover dead. He then takes the engagement ring, which he had kept in his gouged-out left eye for a long time, and places it on Elsa's ring finger while kneeling before her. Meanwhile, the priest and Irmgard engage in a conversation about the Lowenstein family, the only Jewish family in the city. They reflect on how Hitler's massacre led to the expulsion and killing of Jews, including the Lowenstein family, despite their innocence and harmlessness. During the chaos, Sonja and the others discovered a gold nugget that they hid in a tomb and planned to retrieve later. However, upon entering the tomb, they found a Bible instead of the gold. Unexpectedly, they learned that the priest had taken the gold and concealed it in the church. Heinrich convinced the priest to surrender the gold to Rogge, hoping it would help save Elsa. Meanwhile, Elsa secretly escapes while Rogge is sleeping in his room. However, she notices a peculiar agate on Rogge's finger. Curiously, she turns it around and discovers a hidden pill. Unfortunately, Rogge awakens just as Elsa manages to remove the pill. Thinking quickly, Elsa pretends to be affectionate towards Rogge, kissing him and transferring the deadly poison pill into his mouth. On another front, Sonja and her comrades locate the priest and attack him with shovels. Simultaneously, Heinrich throws a lump of gold into the inn to lure Dorfler out. Heinrich offers all the gold in exchange for Elsa's freedom. However, when Dorfler checks his superior's room, he is astonished to find Rogge dead and Elsa missing. Seizing the opportunity, Dorfler assumes command of the troops. He devises a plan to deceive Heinrich by using Robert's wife as a decoy for Elsa. By catching Heinrich off guard, Dorfler aims to attack him. Meanwhile, Elsa, who has just arrived at Irmgard's house, hears an explosion. Despite lacking weapons, Elsa discovers Irmgard's hidden cache of guns, previously used for hunting. In a different setting, Sonja and her group relentlessly interrogate the priest, resorting to physical violence. Yet, the priest remains steadfast and refuses to yield, enduring multiple punches. Similarly, Heinrich endures interrogation from Dorfler, who even donates his own blood to keep Heinrich alive until he discloses the gold's location. The following morning, the priest led Sonja and her companions into the church to retrieve the gold. Sonja planned to kill the priest once they had the gold in their possession. However, an unexpected explosion erupted from the gold casket, resulting in the demise of Sonja and her comrades. Moments later, Dorfler and his troops entered the church, shocked by the chaotic scene. There were still some gold nuggets remaining. Dorfler proceeded to kill the priest, eliminating any obstacles in his path. He then ordered his men to grab a chest to gather all the remaining gold. Outside the church, Elsa stood on high alert with a bazooka in hand. She fired it towards the church, causing the entrance to be blocked by a collapsing wall. Taking advantage of the chaos, Irmgard unleashed her inner fury, attacking and killing Dorfler's troops. Upon seeing the priest's lifeless body, Irmgard transformed into an unstoppable force. She managed to fatally stab Dorfler. However, just as she was about to deliver the finishing blow, she was shot in the head. Witnessing this, Elsa became filled with rage and refused to accept defeat. Engaging in a lone gunfight, Elsa skillfully eliminated all of Dorfler's troops. Unfortunately, Dorfler managed to rise despite his injuries from being stabbed. He struck Elsa, causing her to fall. Dorfler was confident of his impending victory. As Heinrich strangled Elsa, he miraculously regained strength and beat Dorfler to death. In a final act of vengeance, Heinrich stuffed gold into Dorfler's mouth. Heinrich and Elsa hastily left the church. Meanwhile, some of Dorfler's surviving men rejoiced at the prospect of becoming wealthy with the remaining gold. However, Sonja rose unexpectedly and shot the Nazi soldiers, seizing all the gold for herself. She fled the city. Sadly, Sonja's newfound wealth was short-lived, as she was soon targeted and killed by American soldiers in their armored tanks. The American troops had arrived in Germany following the news of Hitler's death. Now, all of Sonja's gold was in the hands of the Americans. In the film's conclusion, Heinrich invites Elsa to accompany him to the town of Hagen, where they will reunite with his daughter. He is overjoyed at the prospect of seeing his daughter again. The story ends on a happy note, bringing a sense of resolution and closure. The moral of the story is never underestimate the power of a good bazooka and a bunch of gold nuggets. They can lead to unexpected adventures, epic battles, and even a reunion with your long-lost daughter. Just remember, in the end, the silliest paths can sometimes lead to the happiest endings.